Hey yo! Hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing Nightwing, Year 1. Take a look at this comic cover right here, and one of the better Nightwing comic covers. They're all pretty good, but this is probably my favorite cover. It's very beautiful. So, Nightwing Year 1 is one of those Year 1 stories. And the Year 1 stories are stories telling the origins of certain superheroes. The first one, and probably the most popular and well-known, being Batman Year 1. And since then, there's been Green Arrow Year 1, Nightwing Year 1, Robin Year 1, Batgirl Year 1, Huntress Year 1, tons of the Year 1 stories. Now, an interesting thing to note about Nightwing Year 1 is, despite its title, it's not actually telling the full first year of Dick Grayson being Nightwing. Rather, it's just telling the origin of Dick Grayson being Nightwing, or going a little bit more in depth to Dick Grayson being Nightwing. So it really should be called Nightwing Origin, but I'm not going to argue. Year 1, it seems to work. Now, a little history lesson before we actually get into the Year 1 story itself is that Nightwing's origins actually take place in the Teen Titans comics with the Judas Contract and some of the material beforehand. The Judas Contract is where Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing for the first time. Nightwing Year 1 serves as kind of a in-depth look of the backstory, kind of the stuff we didn't see that happened during Judas Contract, how he came to the decision to become Nightwing. So with that said, it actually starts things off with Dick Grayson still being Robin in his last mission as Robin, helping out Batman take out Clayface. After returning to the Batcave, they get into quite a bit of an argument where Batman fires Dick Grayson for the second time, because Dick Grayson was fired as Robin beforehand. Dick Grayson buggers off and decides to go and talk to Superman. I find this to actually be an interesting thing that he went to Superman rather than some other superheroes in the community. But he talks to Superman and wanted to get Superman's output on things. And Superman tells him about the story of the Kryptonian legend of Nightwing. See, what you have to understand is Dick Grayson is not the original comic Nightwing. Actually, Nightwing and Flamebird are from Kryptonian history way back in the day. I think they first made their appearance in the late 40s, early 50s, where Jimmy Olsen and Superman went to Kandor dressed as Nightwing and Flamebird. Since then, it's been retconned, but Superman tells Nightwing the story, or tells Dick Grayson the story of the Kryptonian legend Nightwing. And from there, Dick Grayson kind of gets a little bit of inspiration. And he goes to the one place where he feels most at home, and that is the circus. Through a little bit of help from Deadman, he decides to create the persona of Nightwing. And that's the good first third of the book. The second third of the book is Nightwing and Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, going around and just spreading the word of Nightwing. You have to remember, this takes place before A Killing Joke, so Barbara Gordon is still Batgirl. They go around and they kind of fuck around with some of the bad guys and make them feel scared about the Nightwing persona. It also goes a little bit in detail with the romance between Barbara Gordon and Nightwing, and how it's not working at this point, how it could work in the future, and kind of just touches base on that. And the last third of the book deals with the new Robin, how Dick Grayson as Nightwing reacts when Jason Todd becomes Robin. Now, this is an interesting part of the book, which I really like, because since the Crisis of Infinite Earths, we really didn't get that much of Jason Todd. And really, you didn't get much of Jason Todd interacting with Nightwing. I think the only pre-crisis stuff that we have those two talking to each other is Nightwing showing up saying that, hey, if you ever need to talk, call me. That's it. But, anyways, these two kind of have a little conflict with each other, but they have to join sides to help out Batman and Alfred, who has been taken captive by a new face on the scene, Killer Croc. Although Killer Croc's really not new to us, but at this point he was new. At least in the DC history. Not the comics. Killer Croc's been around for a while. So it was kind of interesting to see those two interact. So on to the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. The first good is you get to see kind of the argument that caused Dick Grayson and Batman to really, feud and break up from each other, from being the dynamic duo, which really wasn't talked about a lot with George Perez and Marv Wolfman's stuff. You also kind of see the process of him wanting to figure out where he belongs in life and developing the Nightwing persona. Again, in the Judas contract, he kind of just comes out and goes, "Hey guys, look, I'm Nightwing." Okay, where did the name come from and the suit and everything? But it's explained a little bit more in this. Him and Barbara interacting together was very nice too. I enjoyed that. And him and Dick Grayson kind of bickering between each other was good too. Although I did not like how he's kind of talking about how there's a future with Jason Todd and how Jason Todd has potential, where we all know Jason Todd died. But worry not about that. I also like the inner dialogue, the narration from Nightwing himself. The narration in the book is actually a letter to Batman describing why he became Nightwing. So that was actually kind of interesting too. Downside. The biggest downside I can say about this story is it's not necessary. If you want to really see how Nightwing became Nightwing, how Dick Grayson became Nightwing, and seen it done better, I actually recommend the Titan stuff, George Perez and Marv Wolfman, from the very first new Teen Titan stuff all the way up until Judas Contract. I mean, yes, this does go a little bit in more detail of exactly how the process happened, but the actual happening of turning into Nightwing and the tension about him being Robin and stepping out of the shadow of Batman was done nicely and beautifully over in the Titan stuff. And I would actually prefer the Titan story over this one. They don't conflict with each other at all. This only supports the Teen Titans stuff with Robin Nightwing transition. However, it's not necessary. So whether or not you should pick it up. Well, if you picked up some of the Teen Titans stuff and you read the Titans before and you're a fan of Nightwing, then you probably won't necessarily need to pick this up. You know how Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing, and the other stuff, the backstory, isn't really too necessary. If you're a big Nightwing fan, you're probably going to pick it up just for the hell of it, like I did. If you cannot get your hands on the Teen Titans stuff, I know, because the archive stuff is kind of hard to get. It's very expensive, along with also Judas Contract and all the stuff you have to get in between. That's a lot of money to put out. If you don't feel like picking up the new Teen Titans stuff, I don't know why you wouldn't want to pick it up, but say you don't want to pick it up, or you don't want to spend that amount of money, this is cheaper than getting all that stuff. So it will give you a brief summary of how Dick Grayson became Nightwing. So it is good for that sake, that if you don't have the money for the Titan stuff, then pick up this. So on a whole, it really depends on what kind of reader you are. But the story itself is good. It's just, I don't feel it's necessary. I think the highlight of the story is the stuff with Barbara and the stuff with Jason Todd. The downside of the story is really Dick Grayson going back to the circus. It seems like in every single story where he's having some personal crisis, he has to go back to the circus. I understand. That's his home. That's where he grew up. But seriously, it's just so repetitive and cliche and done all the time. It gets kind of boring. The only thing that kept me from falling asleep was Deadman showing up. But despite that, Chuck Dixon once again pulls out a good Nightwing story. Not quite as good as his other stuff, but still is good. It satisfies me, and it will keep you entertained. I would recommend picking it up if you can't get your hands on the Teen Titans stuff. If you already got your stuff on the Teen Titans stuff, then if you already got your hands on the Teen Titans stuff, it may not necessarily be needed. But it's really up to you. It is kind of hard to find in stores, though. I found it in one comic store, and that's it. Online, I've seen it range from $24 to $40, so it kind of varies in price, but really, it's not overly that hard to get your hands on. It is one of the tougher ones, but not overly that hard. So with that said, I'm going to end the review there. Nightwing Year 1, it's up to you. Use your discretion. This is Andrew saying, peace out for now.